that you can talk to and that can respond and help is part of the safety net that is strong here in this city and needs to be strong everywhere in our Commonwealth, and it's something that I take very seriously. It also needs to be a springboard. The words homelessness and veterans should never, ever be connected. Our veterans deserve to have the skills, to have the dignity of work in their lives, and certainly a safe place to live and to be part of our communities across this Commonwealth. So as your partner in government, I come here today with a full heart of appreciation for all of our veterans, especially the Vietnam veterans who, more than 50 years ago, served our country with great courage and dignity, upholding the ideals that make our country so great. Thank you all, God bless you all, and God bless this great country of America.
It is with great honor and pride that I introduce an unwavering supporter and lifelong advocate for Vietnam veterans and their families. Our host, the Mayor of the City of Leominster, the Honorable Dean Mazzarella.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our veterans. Good morning. Raise your hand, veterans. Raise your hand. Good morning to you. A special good morning to you. As the motorcade came through and the procession came through from Worcester yesterday to Leominster, it took a tremendous amount of cooperation from multiple police and fire and safety groups. This morning, if we didn't get a chance to thank you, thank you. That was a very moving and emotional day. Thank you for keeping us safe, as well as the Massachusetts State Police that provided a helicopter. Again, you kept us safe. Thank you. Good morning to our elected officials, all of you. Yesterday there was lots of conversation, lots of one-words, things like pride and integrity, honor. It went on all day. It was a feeling of team. That is what brought the wall here, team. It's what brought you here, team. We're all part of this team. And at the end of the day, I saw our former councilor, John Savatelli, in the corner. He lifted his arms and said, "This is what America is all about." He was right. That's what America is all about. This is it. And last night, even through all of these words and emotions yesterday, once the wall was rolled out, sort of displayed on this far corner, the lights were turned on, not a single word. Not one single word. That says it all, doesn't it? So, this is your wall. This is what a symbol of those, imagine, 58,000. Is that what it was, Richard? 58,000. Yes. Difficult to comprehend. But let me thank the Vietnam veterans, because even though you were not treated well, in fact, you were treated horribly, you never came back and complained. In fact, everywhere I go in this community, for as long as I've lived, there's a Vietnam veteran volunteering, giving back constantly. The first ones, when we put out the call for help for whatever it is, a child in need, another veteran, the first ones to surface to say, how can we help? Never heard a story from any one of you, and I know most of the Vietnam veterans in town. Never once a gripe or a complaint. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Never once. So I thank you for that, for giving back to our community and not holding a grudge. And I just hope in some small way we can make it up to you. So thank you. Special thank you to Ralph Sacramone, who was insistent, absolutely insistent, unequivocally, without doubt, was not going to let this wall come to anywhere else but this far corner of Carter Park, despite my resistance. And what a team effort it's been. This is really amazing, and I know a lot of people have worked so hard to make it happen, and so I thank you, and there's so many people to thank. But to our Vietnam veterans today and tomorrow and this weekend, forever, We just hope in our own little way we can make this up to you. And we thank you, and we're just glad you're here to help celebrate and to reflect and to honor those names on the wall. I have little POW flags. If anybody knows of a veteran that maybe isn't necessarily one of the veterans from Leominster, and you would like to look their name up, come get a flag. I'll have some flags here later. Take a flag, look their name up, and put a flag in front of their name. I assume by the end of this weekend, that whole area should be filled with flags. So thank you. And I really want to thank Major Michelle Durkee, who once again captures everything that we feel and think and delivers it so eloquently. Thank you.
Mr. James Lanciani has been and continues to be a longtime leader of veterans. He serves on the City Council, is the past Veteran Service Officer for the City of Leominster. He served as a leader of the Leominster Veterans Council and local veterans organizations. But most notably, he is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps and served during the Korean War. The Honorable James Lanciani.
Good morning. Thank you. Gold Star wife, Ms. Claire Frieda, all veterans, I would like to begin by thanking the Vietnam veterans for their courage and fortitude for their treatment during the Vietnam War. With gratitude, I congratulate you for your determination and proper attitude for all veterans to follow through your changing times. You show to all your proud honor of being a Vietnam veteran at one of the country's sad and trying times. You held your heads high, tall, and showed to all what respect means to you, the Vietnam veteran. You and your fellow veteran changed and showed our country that you did what needed to be done, and you did it proudly. Your determined persistence helped to establish the Vietnam War that honors all deceased Vietnam veterans. I have had the honor of seeing the traveling wall 3 other times in my lifetime. Once in Fitchburg at the Civic Center, once at Mount Wachusett Community College, and again in Durham, New Hampshire, Gorham, New Hampshire, while I was there visiting, and the permanent wall in Washington, D.C. on my 80th birthday with my family in 2010. I will never forget the feeling that came over me at that visit. It will always be with me. In conclusion, to each of you today, I would say, God bless you all, and thank you from a proud Korean veteran. Thank you. God bless you.
One out of every 10 Americans who served in Vietnam was a casualty. More than 58,000 killed, 300,000 wounded, 2.5 million served. 75,000 Vietnam veterans were severely wounded. We are reminded that the average infantryman in the South Pacific during World War II saw about 40 days of combat in 4 years. The average infantryman in Vietnam saw about 240 days of combat in 1 year. This due to the mobility of the helicopter. Congressman Jim McGovern was first elected in 1996. He is an unrivaled supporter for social justice and fundamental human rights. He is currently serving in his 10th term in Congress. Congressman McGovern is the second-ranking Democrat on the House Rules Committee. Congressman McGovern has long supported the men and women serving in the military. He introduced a bipartisan, bicameral bill calling for a flexible timetable and safe withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. Congressman McGovern has championed, honored, and respected those who serve and protect our freedom. Please welcome Congressman James McGovern.
Thank you very much, and thank you not only for welcoming me, but for allowing me to participate in this important event. And I'm honored to be here today as we remember the brave men and women who lost their lives in the Vietnam War. And I also just want to say something about this community, which I'm so proud to represent. Leominster is a very special place. People here never forget. People here honor and respect all of our veterans. And in this community, patriotism and love of country is alive and well. This really is the best of our country. And so I just want to thank all of you for being here today on this damp and drizzly day. It's important that we gather. It's important that we come together. It's important that we honor those who have served our country with such distinction. And it's great to be here with my colleagues in government, and it's great to be here with General Keefe and all of you. Today, as we admire this magnificent memorial, we are reminded of all the soldiers who sacrificed so much by leaving their homes and families never to return in order to protect our country and to advance the pursuit of security and prosperity and freedom throughout the world. You know, I've visited the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington on many occasions. As many of you who have also visited the wall know, it is so moving to see the names of the soldiers that died in the Vietnam War. It's hard to believe how many perished in that war. So many young men and women that bravely served this country honorably. One as young as 15 years old, but many between the ages of 16 and 20. Standing here today, I'm amazed at how well this memorial captures the spirit of the wall in Washington, D.C. The Vietnam Memorial Moving Wall reminds us that we must never forget the men and women who lost their lives in the Vietnam War. In addition to recognizing those who lost their lives during the war, I also want to salute all veterans here today who proudly serve this great nation. And I want to salute the active duty service members who sacrifice so much to ensure the safety and the security of our country. And to all the veterans who are here today, I just want to say again, thank you. I'm the proud father of an 18-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't thank God they were born in this country. The greatest, freest country in the world. And it is that way because of the sacrifices of all of our veterans. And we can never say thank you enough. So I am honored to be here today. And at this point, it gives me great pleasure to be able to present 3 veterans with the medals that they earned while serving our country in Vietnam.
So if we could have William L. Miller. Mr. Miller, if you're here, come on up. William L. Miller, Specialist 5, U.S. Army. Today he'll be receiving the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross Unit Citation, and the Parachute Badge. Next, if we could have John A. Coleman come up. So John A. Coleman, Specialist 4, U.S. Army. Today he's receiving the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross Unit Citation, and the Rifle Sharpshooter Badge. Our next veteran we have is Andre J. LeBlanc. Mr. LeBlanc. Andre J. LeBlanc, fireman, U.S. Navy. Today, Mr. LeBlanc is receiving the National Defense Service Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, the Navy Unit Commendation, and the Honorable Discharge Pin.
Welcome home to you guys, by the way. Congratulations. Thanks for your service. Massachusetts has the most comprehensive veterans benefit program in the United States. Massachusetts is the only state with local veteran service officers. The Massachusetts Department of Veterans Services administers and advocates a broad range of services, from homeless veteran intervention and prevention, to education, employment, and financial benefits for those who served in the military. Francisco Arena is the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Services. The day after his high school graduation, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. For 8 years of service, his duties included diplomatic security for the Department of State at 2 American foreign embassies. He is a Purple Heart recipient as a result of injuries sustained during Operation Iraqi Freedom. He served as the Veteran Service Officer in the city of Lawrence, and later as the Commissioner of Veteran Services in the city of Boston. In 2008, he was honored as the Veteran Service Officer of the Year. Please welcome the Secretary of the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, Francisco Arena.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so very much for that warm introduction. Good morning to each and every one of you all. What a great privilege it is to be here in the great city of Leominster as we bring and honor all of our service members who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the Commonwealth. To Lieutenant Governor Polito, to Congressman McGovern, to Mayor Mazzarella, to General Keefe, members of this committee, to Veteran Service Officer Richard Vautour, and to all of our veterans who are here, family, friends, and especially our Gold Star families, good morning. On behalf of your Department of Veteran Services, our 365,000 veterans who call Massachusetts home, it is extremely important to recognize the service of our veterans, to recognize the aspect of their sacrifice. But as we embark upon this month, as I like to call it Veterans Month, let's not all cram all events on Veterans Day, it is important also to remember those who pay the ultimate sacrifice, to remember the sacrifice of our families. Because here in Massachusetts and across this nation, we know that when a veteran serves, a family also sacrifices. That family too serves. 58,307 names are listed on that wall. 10 names here from this great city of Leominster. Names such as Wayne Davis and Franklin Hazard, Davis Hill, Thomas McMillan, and many others. And it's important to remember their sacrifice and how much different those families would have been. The Johnsons, the Homans, the Jocelyn families, upon if their loved one would have returned. 13,021 Massachusetts families too were affected, as 1,321 names are part of that wall. including one female, Pamela Dorothy Donovan, the only female of Massachusetts, an Army nurse from the city of Boston, the Allston neighborhood, who too paid the ultimate sacrifice. One of 9 females on that wall. And it is important to remember the sacrifice of our female veterans. And it is important to remember that they too have sacrificed. It is the fastest growing demographics till this day of veterans. And while veterans are a diminishing number across this nation, we don't have as many service members serving in the military. It is a smaller and more leaner military. It is important as we go into the future to ensure that these types of commemorations, remembrances, must continue. To ensure that we continue to bridge that divide between those who have served, those who haven't, the military and civilian divide. And the 7% of veterans that you may find in any given neighborhood are proud individuals. People who served their country, much like our Korean and Vietnam veterans, who upon returning to our community may not have received the welcome home that our generation of veterans received, did not receive the welcome home that their previous generations of veterans received. And so it's very important to always continue to remember the sacrifice of our Vietnam veterans, but as also I am always so thankful for the resiliency of our Vietnam and Korean War veterans who faced so much adversity upon returning and yet plowed through it, shine, and were successful members of our community and our society. Let us remember your 10 heroes here of Leominster. Let us remember the 1,321 names from Massachusetts. And let us continue to show our young generation what it means, what those names resemble, and the aspect of living in a free nation due to their sacrifice. May God bless each and every one of you all. And if we don't see each other before then, happy Veterans Day to all of our heroes among us. Thank you so very much, and God bless.
Major General Gary W. Keefe is the Adjutant General, Massachusetts National Guard. He oversees the strategic direction, administration, and operation of the Massachusetts National Guard to ensure over 9,000 joint soldiers, airmen, and civilians are trained, equipped, and mission ready to support national security objectives overseas, as well as protect life and property and preserve peace, order, and public safety as directed in times of natural disaster and civil emergency within Massachusetts. Major General Keefe received his commission in 1986 through the Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Norwich University. In 2003, during Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, General Keefe served as the 387th Expeditionary Logistics Group Commander at a classified location in Southwest Asia. He commanded in excess of 800 United States Central Command personnel and was responsible for all aircraft maintenance and logistics. Major General Keefe has received over 30 awards and citations, including the Legion of Merit with 1 Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster, the Bronze Star Medal with 1 Bronze Star Oak Leaf Cluster, and many other awards and citations. The Major General is accompanied today by 2 Leominster residents, Lieutenant Colonel Keith Childress, Deputy Director, U.S. Property and Fiscal Office, and Command Chief Warrant Officer Joseph Quinn, both of whom are Leominster residents and serving us proudly. Please welcome the Adjutant General, Massachusetts National Guard, Major General Gary W. Keefe.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I just want to share a few things with you. I got to tell you, I am in awe and a little bit jealous of just the patriotism that I've seen as I've driven the streets here this morning before I sat down at Tim's Diner and elevated my cholesterol level a little bit. I'll tell you, this is quite a community, and I am actually very jealous. So, an honor to be here today. I certainly want to thank all our veterans, but if I could, for our Vietnam veterans, if you could just stand up for a minute or raise your hand. Because I think we all know today and through the weekend, it's about you and it's about your fallen comrades. And on behalf of the Commonwealth, and I'll echo what everybody else has said here, thank you so much. You have paved the way for the rest of us that have followed in your shoes, so thank you very much. Lieutenant Governor Polito, Congressman McGovern, Mayor Mazzarella, Representative Rosa, Secretary Urena, City Councilor Laziani, and I see the Marine Corps is represented quite nicely between the two of you here today. Fellow actively serving service members, all veterans and veterans groups, Gold Star spouses and families, thank you for honoring the city's Vietnam veterans, both those who are present with us today and the 10 Leominster natives whose names are engraved forever upon the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. It's an honor and a privilege for me to visit historic Carter Park today, where the name of Leominster's fallen heroes from throughout American history are forever inscribed and honored. I want to particularly thank Chaplain Major Durkee for her inspirational words, and Mayor and Mr. Willem Barrett for gracing us with the invocation and blessing this morning, as well as Leominster's Veteran Service Officer, Richard Votor, also a Marine. For all the work he does on behalf of Leominster's veterans. I also want to thank our Master of Ceremonies today, Vietnam veteran Richard Early. Thank you, Mr. Early. And his colleagues at the Vietnam Veterans of America, which is the only congressionally chartered veteran service organization exclusively dedicated to Vietnam veterans and their families. The VVA has tirelessly advocated on behalf of Vietnam veterans for the past 40 years, ensuring that the history of service of Vietnam veterans is preserved and appropriately honored for years to come. On a personal note, I want to thank one of Leominster's own, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Joe Quinn, the Massachusetts Army National Guard Chief Warrant Officer, a native-born, lifelong resident of Leominster, whose professionalism and commitment help guide me every day in the management of our nation's first and longest-serving military service and military organization, your Massachusetts National Guard. So by presidential proclamation on Memorial Day in 2012, our nation began the United States of America Vietnam War commemoration to honor the 50th anniversary of the war in Vietnam. And it was a war. Make no bones about that. It's been referred to as an operation and a conflict. It was a war. The commemoration is long because that war in Vietnam was long, involving American service members from as early as 1955, with the initial American Military Advisory Group, until the last service members were cleared out of the country in May of 1975. The Vietnam War was a controversial war that consumed the attention of our nation and caused deep divisions within American society. Many American service members came home to a silent reception, others to outright hostility. Few came home to glorified welcome, and amazingly, at one point the United States military advised returning service members not to wear their uniforms in public, for fear they might be targeted for harassment, abuse, or worse. For far too long, our Vietnam veterans were ignored and in some instances forgotten.
As time passed, this hostility was replaced by something worse, indifference, and the deafening silence of lost memory. The mistreatment of American Vietnam veterans in some quarters of society is a stain upon America and a gross violation of one of the most important duties of our free society, to honor its citizens who sacrificed of themselves so that others may live freely. In the words of our late President, Abraham Lincoln, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who bore the battle, and for his widow and orphan. Unfortunately, for a long period of time after the conclusion of the Vietnam War, President Lincoln's words fell upon deaf ears. But just as the passage of time heals all wounds, it also reveals truth. In cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth and the nation, we learn this truth. There is no forgetting the most profound events in the life of a nation, a state, a city, or a village. The names and lives of the people who served and sacrificed cannot be forgotten, even though some may try. They live on, each distinctively remembered by their families, friends, and communities like here in Leominster. Now, because of this memorial park, this moving wall, and in our nation's capital, the permanent Vietnam Memorial, Leominster's Vietnam War dead will be remembered so long as our great republic stands. Here in Leominster, there was and remains to this day a tradition of service and, above all, remembrance that echoes along the streets of this great American city and has produced so many American heroes throughout our nation's history. From Private Oliver Hazard, an African-American soldier honored by serving the glorified 54th Volunteer Glory Regiment, who was memorialized here in Carter Park, through the two World Wars, Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Gulf War. It's clear this community will always remember its fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Even today, the name of Army PFC Jonathan Roberge, killed in Iraq in 2009, is etched upon the memorial circle. The names on this Vietnam memorial represent Leominster, its history, and its people. Neighbors in life, they are now eternal brothers, brothers in arms, always together, past and present, never forgotten. Their names and memories spoken along the streets and neighborhoods of this great city. From North Main Street to Oxford Street, Viscaloid Avenue, in the French Hill area, the Flats, the Plains, Morse Hollow, and Rice Hill, their memories will always carry on. They share one characteristic that defines all heroes. Their lives were not taken, they were given. Given in the belief that certain values, liberty, justice, and freedom, are greater than any one individual and worth defending even at the cost of one's own life. We have not forgotten, and we will never forget. Today is but one day, but this monument is a reminder to each of us to remember these heroes, and especially their families, for what they have sacrificed. We must never forget that these families have endured and continue to endure an unending pain and separation and loss. Finally, I ask everyone today to bear in mind the lessons learned of the Vietnam War and this memorial as we continue to welcome home our military service members from Afghanistan, Iraq, and elsewhere. They and their families must receive the support they have earned and deserve and was forged by our Vietnam veterans. We in the military will remain true to our warrior creed to never leave a fallen comrade behind, whether on the battlefield or here at home as they find their way back to civilian life. I implore everyone to join us in that support. Once again, thank you for granting me the honor, and it is an honor and a privilege of sharing this important day with you. May God bless our fallen heroes and their families. May God bless our great Commonwealth, and now and forever, may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vietnam was not a battle that they wished for. or the battle that they anticipated. Out of frustration, anger, outrage, humor, love, and a sense of duty, the Vietnam Veterans Movement developed the work that continues even today, still unfinished, but with much accomplishment. Many reports falsely claim that most Vietnam veterans were drafted from the uneducated, poor, minority populations. However, 2/3 of the men who served in Vietnam were volunteers, while 2/3 of the men who served in World War II were drafted. Approximately 70% of the 58,000 deaths in Vietnam were volunteers. In the book, All That We Can Be, the authors analyzed the claim that the poor and the blacks were used like cannon fodder in Vietnam. This charge is unfounded. African Americans were approximately 12% of all Americans killed in Southeast Asia, a figure proportional to the number of blacks in the U.S. population at that time. Servicemen who went to Vietnam from college backgrounds had a slightly elevated risk of dying because they were more likely to be pilots and infantry officers. Across the board, Vietnam veterans were the best educated force our nation had ever sent into combat. 79% had a high school education or better. 91% of Vietnam veterans reported that they were glad they served. Thank them, respect them. We will never forget. The Wall That Heals is here today because of the vision of one citizen. He is committed to a notion that we be remembered of and pay tribute to those who served and died during one of the most divisive and one of the most difficult periods in American history. We are gathered here today in remembrance because of the vision, will, and hard work of Mr. Joseph Fermini. Mr. Fermini is inspired by last year's Vietnam War ceremony. He is the business manager for this event. On behalf of the Vietnam veterans, thank you, Joe, for your vision, your kindness, and your action. Please welcome Mr. Joseph Fermini.
Good morning. I'd like to personally thank Mayor Dean Mazzarella, Richard Botour, Jolene Constant, and Colonel Bob. Bob, I don't know if use your last name for the last 365 days. So we'll leave it as Colonel Bob. Without their 100% dedication, the Wall That Heals would not be in our park today. I would also thank the local veterans organizations, the surrounding communities, for their time, their input, and their funding to make this happen. My reasons for bringing the wall to Leominster are fairly straightforward. My wife Kathy and I decided back in 2010 that we would in some way give back to our communities that we both live in. You know, whether it was Christmas trees for soldiers public speaker. Whether it's free Christmas trees for soldiers, discounted flags during Memorial Day, or beautification projects for local schools. It was clear to us after attending last year's Veterans Day ceremony and seeing the hall full of Vietnam veterans all stand proudly when their respective anthems were played. I walked out of that hall knowing that this was the project I wanted to tackle. From a simple email to several phone calls, here we stand today 1 year later, not with only the wall behind us, but all the hard work, last minute meetings, and a few late nights. For me to see it all come together right now is a bit overwhelming, but the satisfaction of a great team effort has started to settle in. I also wanted to make sure my children are brought up to understand what our military does for us. TV, textbooks will only take them so far. To see, meet, and speak with people is the real experience. I want to be sure they are brought up to respect the men and women in uniform, including our police, fire, and EMS. It doesn't matter if we believe the cause is just or not. These men and women answer the call willingly, and they deserve our adoration. And finally, to reassure my parents they have raised good kids. Kids that are respectful to others, are willing to help others in need without being asked, to say please, excuse me, and in this case with the healing wall behind us, to say thank you to people when they have done something for us, whether they recognize it or not. And this is my way of saying thank you to you and your families for your sacrifices. Because of what you all have done, including my father, Joe Fermani Sr., my uncles, Philip Anzalone and Leonard Arsenal, and my many friends who have volunteered to serve, I've been able to live the life I currently lead without fear or anxiety. And it has allowed me to do the little things I do just to say thank you. This is a great moment for Leominster and the surrounding communities, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
We'd like to thank all of our honored guests this morning for spending their time with us in remembrance of Vietnam veterans. Please join us for fellowship, viewing, and remembrance as this concludes our morning tribute. A reminder that we will be here this afternoon for programming and music at 4 p.m. and tomorrow again at 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and Sunday at 9 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. for the luminaries. So thank you for coming this morning, and we can only say thank you, Vietnam veterans. God bless you and your service. Thank you very much.
I'm going to petition the neighbor.